listening to the Impact Network. My name is Josh Culler. I am your host. Thank you guys for joining and listening in and giving us a shot at a new podcast. Obviously, there's so many podcasts I know that you could listen to, but I appreciate you spending some time and giving some effort here. So the reason that we started this show, now I will give you kind of like, this is going to be episode 1. This is going to be talking about what impact is to me, how impact should impact you and the others around you and that sort of thing, and what impact things you should be focused on. But the main purpose of this podcast is, I own a marketing agency. We manage social media, podcasts, YouTube, that kind of thing. And, the people that I work with, I really do believe are impacting other people's lives for good. But in a world where I get to see a lot of what goes on behind the curtain in social media, we have a lot of influencers, but not enough people impacting, not enough impactors, if you will. So the point of this show is to bring people onto the show that I believe, and I'm going to highlight, that are impacting other people's lives positively. We've already recorded a handful of shows at the time of this recording, and I'm really excited to be bringing you some of the guests. The podcast episode is going to be right after this, is with my good friend Alex Nicola, and there are so many great things that we talk about. One of the main things we talk about is how family impacts your life and impacts their lives and impacts the people around you, and how relationships can impact you and your family's lives, positively. And so those are some of the things that we talk about. We also at some point, we get the owners of the Fluid Coffee Bars, Allison and Chuck Skates, on the show. The Fluid Coffee Bars being local to Northwest Indiana, just a staple here, and my favorite personal coffee bar. And we talk about how they are using coffee to impact other people's lives positively and impacting their communities and that sort of thing. I also get my pastor on here, Matthew Sheehy, pastor of Christ Way Baptist Church. We talk about, on that episode, it's very interesting because we talk about a whole slew of things, but one of the things is how a church leader is able to, kind of manage a congregation, a congregation that they can't necessarily hold accountable if they wanted to. And the point of the show isn't to just talk about business and to only bring business owners onto the show. We're on the set right now, and, I'm looking this way because we typically do get people, on the show. They're going to be sitting here. All these podcasts are going to be recorded live and that sort of thing. But, we talk about impact in a way that you are doing positive, highly positive things for humanity, for not just yourself, but other people around you, because that's what we believe in. But one of the things I really wanted to discuss and go over was, there is a difference between influence and impact. Not that you don't need influence. I strongly believe, it's not to say that, the Alex Hormozis of the world, or the Lewis Howes of the world, or Rob Dials, or, people like that aren't doing good work. They definitely are. But and I believe that they are strongly impacting other people's lives. So I'm not talking about those types of people, because naturally, just by starting a podcast right now, I have now become an influencer in a way, right? So that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actual influence when it comes to contact with other people in everyday life, and how you can not just influence them, but also positively impact them. Impact, basically, in a way, does mean, basically with influence, you can influence thousands, hundreds of thousands of people at any given moment, but impact is a lot more personal. It's a lot more direct. Normally it happens in person when you're belly to belly and shaking hands with people, and the way that you conduct yourself with them. And so on today's episode, I really wanted to go over, I'm only going to spend, 15, 20 minutes. Typically these episodes are going to be an hour long, 45 minutes to an hour long, because I want to go deep into some of these people's conversations. Plus, we do get them in person, so I want to make sure I'm utilizing the time as much as possible. We're going to have people fly in for these podcasts and that sort of thing. So today, what I really wanted to go over is, and I do have notes in my lap right now, so if you're watching the video portion of it, if you're not watching the video portion of it, you can on YouTube. If you just look up Josh Culler on YouTube, you'll find my channel and it'll be there. But I'm going to talk about today how you personally can impact not just your life, but the others around you, and some of the things that do impact your life and others around you. There's a handful of things that would be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I already knew that. But there's going to be a handful of things where you might think of it in a way that, oh, I never really thought of it like that. Like, it actually does have a big impact on my life, and I want to bring that to you. So the first thing on the list, and in my opinion, is going to be the most powerful thing and the most important thing, is relationships. There are several relationships in my life where I believe if I didn't have these particular relationships, that I definitely would not be where I am today. Instantly, I think of my wife. Instantly, I think of my family, my parents, my sister, and then her family as well. Then I can branch that out into my mentors, Matt Andrews, Gary Harper. We're in his studio right now, and at some point we'll get him on the show as well. But those are people that I've had heavy impacts in my life, and also previous employers that I've worked with before, or clients that I've worked with, or not just clients, but even just friends that I have that are in my network of business that have drastically impacted my life. And it's my responsibility not to just suck that value from them, but to also deliver value back to them because they impacted my life. And not just because they impacted my life. Like, I don't want it to be a return token for them, but I believe there are people's lives I am impacting that aren't necessarily impacting my life just as much. But that's not what this is about. The book Go Giver basically states something to the effect of being a true giver is to not expect anything in return. It's like you're giving, but you're just not expecting anything in return. And I think that relationships work that way. You invest your time, you invest your energy into a relationship, and that can obviously positively impact you, but it definitely impacts other people. And together, relationships can impact like a company, or it can impact a workplace, or even a church family, or a country, right? Those type of relationships can really impact so many people around you positively. And, when it comes to relationships, obviously, it's why we're here, right? It's like one of the main reasons why we exist on earth is to build relationships with other human beings. It's very important to me, like every person that I come across, and I do inventory this, by the way. If there's somebody that I come across, maybe I talked to them on the phone, maybe I was driving by them and they cut me off and I decided to flip them off and curse at them and blare my horn at them. I feel bad instantly. It's just a habit. It's something I've developed because I don't want to just burn bridges, and I don't want to, the thought process might be like, well, you're never going to see that person again, or you just don't want people to trample over you in life. I understand that, and I do agree with that. However, you can still treat people kindly just out of the kindness of your heart. I do think kindness is one of the most underrated virtues in humanity, and just being kind to other people can very positively impact them. The next thing I would look at is money. Money is something, and the rest of these are in no particular order. I wanted to start off with relationships, but money is something obviously that, you could have a lot of it, you could have a little of it. I've met many people that have had a little of it. They were actually poor in a third world country, and they positively impacted my life, like changed it for good type of thing, where like I don't even remember their name. It was just an interaction I had with that person because they were super happy, but they were living in a tin hut and didn't have a lot of food. They were very much malnourished. Like, they did not look healthy, but they impacted my life because they were happy, and they basically told me that you have a good life and that sort of thing. And that's the kind of stuff that I look at all the time. But money is one of those things that, there's always that statement that's brought up that Jim Carrey says that, I wish everybody could have, could be rich so they could see that it's not the answer and that sort of thing. And I will say this, like, no, money doesn't bring happiness. However, it can definitely help. It can definitely help because, if you're struggling, if you're constantly trying to scavenge for money and that sort of thing, that can definitely, be a damper. That can definitely hurt you in ways. But what I would encourage you guys to think about is not focusing on money. Money should really be used as a tool to help other people, to help your life, and to help give you a good lifestyle and provide your family with a good lifestyle, obviously. And that's very subjective for every other person. But also, in addition to that, one of the biggest things with money that you can utilize as a tool to impact others is not just giving money, but like using money to help other people. Obviously, there's donations, there's charities you can give to. A prime example for me is that I actually support, there's a missions organization called Core Missions, and they basically establish national pastors in other countries where they will go evangelize that country, establish, train up a pastor, and then that pastor that's born and raised in that country will run the church at some point. And that's their model. And I think it works extremely well because not only does that pastor have street cred because they're born and raised there, they also know how to live off the land and the economy there a whole lot more than, say, somebody that came from the United States and is living off a, $10,000 a month income, and then they go, across the country and maybe they need the same thing. And that can be challenging, right? So money for me is utilized to bring in income to give back to these missionaries and support them so that they can build their ministries and do good work for God and bring people, that are lost to the gospel. That's how I utilize money. And then I also, it's not a braggadocious thing. I'm just giving you examples of how I utilize it. Is I also retired my mother. My mother, worked multiple jobs, growing up, putting me and my sister through a private Christian school so that we could go to a good school. And I played sports all year round, multiple sports all year round. She had to pay for all the new shoes that I got. And, if I needed cleats for football, baseball, new glove, uniforms, stuff like that. And that's just the start of it. And she worked multiple jobs. My dad obviously, worked a full-time job, obviously, to make sure that we were, living in a good home and that sort of thing. We had food on the table. But I retired my mom because she invested so much of her life into upbringing her children, me and my sister. And I, retired her 3.5 years ago. And it's one of the best things I've ever done. And for me, it's like, if I ever struggle with money, I'm not letting go of retiring my mother. I'm sending back my Mercedes to the dealership and getting a cheaper car. Like, that's how important it is to me. So that's kind of the ways that, people should be thinking about money. It's like, how can I utilize my money, whether it's a lot or a little? Like, I know people that make $20,000 a year as an income, and they do a lot of really good works with their time or with their money. And I know millionaires, multimillionaires that don't do anything with their money. I know multimillionaires that do a lot with their money. So that's one thing to think about. The next thing is obviously time. So that leads perfectly into the next one. Using your time to help impact other people. It's spending time with people. I am starting this podcast, spending a little money for studio time, but spending my time here, investing my time to hopefully bring some good messaging and some sort of a message or a statement or something that a guest says that helps positively impact your life, the person that's listening right now, to impact your life. And I wanted to do that because there's podcasts that I've listened to that there were some things that were said and positively impacted my life, right? Great example. It's kind of like cheesy and I don't really think about it a lot, but it is the truth. Gary Vaynerchuk, his podcast, I've listened to it for a very long time. And his model of how to chop up social media content from podcasts and content and stuff like that he used to preach all the time. I literally started my business with that model that he developed. And I've been able to build a multi-million-dollar marketing agency off of that. And so I'm indebted to him because the way that he explained it was so thorough to me that I was able to build an entire business off of that. And it's given me an incredible lifestyle and been able to help me achieve some of these goals that I have in my life. So that's one of the things. Investing your time is one of those things. Health is the next thing. Health is something that, whether you believe it or not, it's not your specific health is not just impacting you. It impacts other people. How many times have we heard a story of, overweight, man comes home from work and is just completely stressed and, really has no energy after work, whether he worked a long day or not, and then has no time for his kids. Yes, what you can look at it from one scope of like, well, he worked so hard, so he just doesn't have energy to spend time with his kids. But then I would ask the question, like, why are you working? But in addition to that, what if he was healthier? What if he did have energy when he came home and took care of himself when he came home and went to the gym and ate right and that sort of thing? But guys, like, how many times have we run into somebody that isn't in good health? And it's not just weight and it's not just mental. It's like literally everything from your health all the way to the bottom. Like, if I stubbed my toe and like interacted with somebody 10 seconds after I stubbed my toe, chances are I'm not going to be nice to them. Chances are I'm going to be a little cranky, right? That includes health. So taking care of yourself, to me, the way I look at it, and I always tell my wife this, is I always told her, you do not come first. I come first. Because if I can't take care of myself, there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to take care of you. Or there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to take care of the rest of my family, the people that are around me and that sort of thing. So I prioritize my health over everybody. I prioritize myself over everyone. And that's because, and to me, that's why I'm able to support my mother. That's why I'm able to support the missionaries that I have, my wife, the family that we're going to have in the future and that sort of thing, is because I do invest a lot of time into my health. It's eating clean. It's going to the gym and exercising. I'm going to be 31 years old at the time of this recording in July 19 of 2024. And I do feel like I'm in the best physical health of my life, even back from high school when I was playing 4 to 6 sports all year round. And that's because I've invested a lot of time into it. Your body deteriorates over time. There was a time where I was overweight and then I lost a good 40, 50 pounds and I felt like a new human being. And I'm just encouraging you, if you're listening right now and you believe that, chances are what you need to fix, whether it's your mental, whether it's it's physical appearance. You have some extra fat on your body or something like that. Or maybe you're, small, but you just need more energy. So that means that you need to go to the gym, that sort of thing. This is your go ahead to do that. And I can hold you accountable if you want. I'm not a gym coach or anything like that. I'm not a health coach or anything, but this is your license. This is saying, get your ass in gear and go get healthy. Because if you can't take care of yourself, how can you expect to take care of other people? That's the main thing. So impact, health, not just you. It's not just you. When you are unhealthy in any way, shape, or form, you impact others around you negatively. So the next thing is growth. Growth obviously can impact you and your lives around you in many ways. It goes back to this conversation I have of, if I can't take care of myself, if I can't grow myself, then I can't grow other people around me. So me as a business leader, at the time of this recording, I have 10 employees that work for me. If I'm not constantly growing, how can I expect my team to grow? How can I expect them to grow? And there has been seasons where I was not growing. And guess what happened? The business started to go sideways because I wasn't growing. So I've got to make sure I'm consistently focused on growth. That could be growth on, health. That could be growth on relationships, growth on, money, time. But it can be growth on just educating yourself, getting better. One of my core values in our company is innovation. And that just basically means to get better, not just for the sake of change, but for the sake of getting better and constantly looking to grow. Read books, listen to podcasts. I'm not a big book reader. I'm not a big podcast listener, regardless of the fact that we produce and manage over 25 podcasts at the moment. But I do believe in growth still. And a lot of that has to do with relationships, connecting with mentors and that sort of thing. Next thing is hobbies. To me, hobbies, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but hobbies can impact. I have a lot of hobbies, right? So I love sneakers. I actually have a side hustle business called The Wearforce, thewearforce.com, shameless plug. We buy and sell sneakers, and we have a lot of really good stuff in inventory, but it's because it's a passion of mine. It's a business I wanted to start that we make decent money on, but I don't look at it as a business because I love the hustle of finding good deals and then passing them on to somebody else. And that's something that I absolutely love. And I use that money for another purpose and a cause. I don't just pocket that stuff. I use it for something. And then in addition to that, I love to go kayaking. I love playing basketball. I do love going to the gym. I love spending time with my wife and traveling to places. That's all hobbies that I have that if I didn't have those things, I really don't know what I would do with my life. So I encourage you, if you don't have a hobby, if you don't have something that you thoroughly enjoy, music is one thing that I love music. I could literally, any music that I listen to, I can name you the song, I can name you the artist of that song, and I don't care if it's 20 or 30 years old, I could name it for you. I could sing every single lyric to you back from memory. That's just, music just is impounded in my head and it's imprinted there. And that's something that I'm very, very passionate about. So I would just encourage you to go find some hobbies. Next two things are kind of going hand in hand, and then we'll wrap this up. Positive and negative life experiences. So obviously, it's to be said, if you have positive life experiences, that's very easy, right? And a lot of times it's easy to overlook it. Something really good happened to you, and then it kind of sits with you for a day or two, and then you forget about it until maybe a memory pops up on Facebook about it, right? Maybe you got a new dog, and it's awesome for the first couple of days, and then you forget about it, and then you're training the dog, you're getting aggravated, frustrated, that sort of thing, and then a memory pops up a year later, and you're like, oh, I'm so happy I got my puppy, that sort of thing, that kind of thing. This is a small example. It's close to my heart because I have 3 dogs right now. But positive life experiences are something that even just as much as somebody, paying for you in the drive-thru for your coffee at Starbucks, they, paid for you. They say, pay for that person behind me, whatever they got, and then they drive off, and that's a positive life experience for you. That sets your day right because it's just something, it's that hit that man, that felt good. Thanks for doing that. But it's also not just positive life experiences for you. I would also ask, how can you set positive life experiences for other people? Can you be the person that pays for the coffee behind you? You spend an extra $10 just to make somebody's day, and you're not going to get a thank you. You're not going to get them, chasing you up the street and pulling up to you next to you at the stoplight and then waving at you. Thanks for the coffee, that sort of thing. That stuff doesn't happen. Some people don't even say thank you. You open the door for someone, nobody says thank you. You don't have to respond negatively, just be positive. And I think that that's something that we could all look at from a scope of, testing ourselves in the water. You go out and somebody cuts you off in the road. What if you just don't respond negatively? Yeah, obviously protect yourself, but what if you just, like, okay, maybe they're in a rush. Cool. I'm cool, calm, collected. I'm not going to let it affect my energy and that sort of thing. Just keep moving on. You'll never see that person again. So it's that sort of thing. But there's so many positive life experiences and it's not, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this one because obviously if you have a positive life experience, that's something that is going to impact you in a really good way. Negative life experiences, on the other hand, there are so many things in my life that, and I do firmly believe I've had a good life, even from, birth. I've not really had any crazy traumatic experiences. I lived in a median household, like lower end median household family. We grew up in I would say probably a B minus neighborhood, that sort of thing. Not the hood. We definitely weren't in, wealthy country or anything like that. My dad held down a really good job. My mom worked multiple jobs, that sort of thing. We went to a good school. I have both my parents are still married to this day. I don't even know what years they're going on, but they're both healthy and that sort of thing. But there have been things in my life that have come up that were very negative things and were imprinted on my life and changed my behavior in a way that, made me who I am today. I think of my mom had breast cancer when I was in 6th grade, and that shook us to the core because we, at one point, fully believed that we were going to lose my mother. And my mother is very, very near and dear to my heart. And that was a really, really bad experience going through that. And still to this day, I have fear of loss. That's something that I very much struggle with is fear of loss. It's just losing what I have. That's what I fear. It's kind of funny in a way, but that impacted me even to this day. There's been a handful of just, if you're listening and you've been in a dating situation and you had a girlfriend or a boyfriend and it was a bad breakup and you went through all these life changes and that sort of thing, and maybe it spat you out the other side and you were a better person for it. You went through that thing and you're a better person for it. That could be a positive or a negative life experience for you. It depends on how you look at it, but all of it is from the scope of the way that you kind of shake it out. The thing I always like to encourage you, obviously, if you're going through something right now and it's negative, it's really hard to look at it from, well, how can this change my life for good? It's really hard to look at it that way, but I would encourage you to give as much effort to that as you possibly can. Once you get through it, push through it as hard as you can, and once you get out the other side, that made me stronger. There's so many things in business, too, where we go through this. There's cycles, there's market cycles, there's good business, there's bad business, there's good clients, there's sucky clients. It happens. And every time we come out of a negative situation that stresses me the hell out, I always look at it and say, okay, maybe that was for the better. What did I learn from this? And that's really the way you need to look at negative life experiences. So what can you do today to impact your life and others' lives? Hopefully you learned a lot from what I gave here. You're going to learn a lot from the guests that we get on the show. It's going to be a fantastic show, guys. I'm really excited to bring you some incredible guests that have impacted other people's lives very positively and a lot of people's lives. So obviously take what I've said today and think about it from a scope of view of the next person I come in contact with, if you're at a car listening to this right now and you're about to stop at a Starbucks, pay for that person behind you. If you got an extra $5 or $10, pay for their coffee behind you and just see how good that feels. And don't expect anything in return. Don't even expect a thank you in return. The Starbucks cashier is probably going to take it and say, okay, cool. And that's it. That's all you're going to get. And just be okay with that. Positive life experiences is what I would focus on for not just yourself, but other people around you. Invest your time, invest your money into impacting other people's lives positively. Grow. Make sure that you take care of your health. You come first. Prioritize your health and not anything else. Make sure that you are healthy for those that are loved ones of yours and the people around you. So hopefully you guys learned a lot from this, but I'm really excited to bring you this, the Impact Network. It's to highlight people that are impacting other people's lives positively and for good. So if you do know of somebody that would fit this role of being here, we do record in Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago. Obviously, if you are local, I would love to connect with you and see if you'd be a good qualified guest to be on the show. Or you could obviously fly in as well. But thank you guys for listening to this episode. Go ahead and roll this right into the next episode with Alex Nicola. This is going to be a great episode, and I'm really excited to bring that to you. Thank you guys for listening and watching. And if you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the show, being episode 1. You probably haven't, so make sure you do before you leave here. But thank you for listening and watching, and we will see you guys on the next episode. See ya.